Hello, hello. Just getting started with the very first live Keep It Organic podcast. Got two people, three people on the stream. Hallelujah. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm just gonna flim flam here for a minute, talk to you, and then I'll get started on the official. Uh, Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Truth be told, didn't have a video ready for today. Wanted to come to you on a Sunday. Woke up this morning and said, I'm gonna go live. I'm just gonna do it. Never done it before. Been wanting to do it. Here I am doing it. Yes, you're with me. You're one of the 7 people here on the first live. Okay, down to 4. Thanks for dropping by. Let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, so welcome to the Keep It Organic podcast, a place for gardening thoughts, techniques, trends, and questions from you. I'm your host, Scott from New Garden Road, and after 18 years of organic gardening in Central Texas, I'm here to spill the beans. I'm an advocate for small farms, saving soil, ecological stewardship, and crop diversity. Thanks for tuning in live or catching up on the replay. All right. Yeah, so today, I really want to get into things that I'm not going to be planting in March because we've got quite a few options that we can plant this time of year. And it might be a little bit confusing if you're looking at the planting guide and you're thinking, I want to get in a last round of lettuce or spinach, but I'm also thinking about planting some squash or some corn. What are you going to do? Yeah. So here's my take. Uh, so today's topic is vegetables I'm not planting in March. Number one is brassicas. Now, I realize this is a lot of vegetables, but we're talking about the Brassica oleracea, the kale, collards, cabbage, collard greens, and those are all crops that you can grow throughout the fall and the winter months here, and you can get them going with transplants, and they'll get into production for you. And a lot of times you might find them they are ready to harvest right now. And if you go to a garden center, you may see some transplants, but I'm here to tell you that is not what I'm going to be going for this time of year. It's going, what is right around the corner? The sun is coming out. It's going to be heating up. I mean, we already had 1 week where it was like in the 80s, and then we had another Arctic front come through. It's topsy turvy. What is average temperatures here in Central Texas? If you know, drop it, drop it in the chat. Leave me a message there. Yeah, so brassicas, I've got them planted. They've been harvesting for me. I'm still getting a lot of kale, and I do plan to harvest my kale and my collard greens down into the season, hopefully into May, maybe even June. I have some kale plants that I started fall of 2023, and those are still kicking it. So it's possible. But whether or not I would plant them now, no, absolutely not. Because one thing you have to think about is what kind of space do you have in your garden? What size is your garden? Is your capacity to carry over these crops um, there? Because maybe you need to allocate that space to some new crops. And we'll get into this after I get through with my list here. I want to talk about the things that I'm looking forward to growing this coming season, but I also want to answer some questions. So please, if you have some questions, drop those in the chat for me and I will answer them directly when we get to that section. Number 2 on the list of things I'm not going to be planting in March, winter radishes. All right. We're talking about daikon radishes, some of the watermelon radishes, black Spanish would count in that category too. These winter radishes, they take about, 60 days or so to harvest, which in and of itself, if you think about it, that's going to be putting us deep into the month of April. So that's not a good situation for them. As well as the days are getting longer after the winter solstice. I think these types of crops are a little bit more difficult to bring through. Now, technically, we do have an opportunity to plant these spring radishes, those that come together in about 28, 30 days. I'm talking about the French breakfast radish, the white icicle. That's one of my new favorites. Yeah, the cherry bell. There's a lot of good, really fast producing radishes out there that you could try to plant right now, but they almost made this list. I mean, I'll leave them on there. I'll cut them some slack because, you know, the weather might cooperate and it'll go good for you. So again, back to, do you have the room in the garden? Check it out. All right. Yeah. Just remember, questions, go in the chat. Ask me a question. You can ask me about anything garden related. I'll be happy to answer it. I'm gonna sit here and flim flam until you do. So let's do this. All right, number 3 on the list is peas. I'm talking about like English snap, snow peas, some of those delicious sweet peas that you can grow in the cool season here. And to be honest, I think these are one of the trickiest crops to pull through here because often when we have an opportunity to get them started in the fall, it's still very, very warm. Okay, it's hot. It's 100 degrees, you know? And then about the time it cools off when we get them planted, they start going good. And then what happens? It gets too cold. All right. Famously, the 2021 polar vortex that came through, that wasn't too fun. I had the most beautiful crop of peas. All right. So the second week of February, they were in full flower. I was looking forward to having some good peas come through, and it didn't happen because even as they are hardy to the upper 20s, what can happen is they will drop their flowers when they get a freeze. So that's going to set them back. So we're kind of going back to the fall planting scenario now, because even though we can probably get those up and growing really rapidly, the heat is going to be a limiting factor in getting those in. So I will be talking about some of my favorite beans that you can get going. They're going to come through for you like a champ after this. All right. Number 4 on the list is onions. Now, onions is a big category. Okay. You got bulbing onions, spring onions, green onions, leeks, shallots, all kind of good stuff like that. But if you're looking to grow some bulbing onions, the time to plant those is going to be in the month of January from some little transplants, like a little bundle of what look like green onions. Yeah. Those have been started from seed in the fall, and we have specific selections that we need to go for in our area that are just appropriate based on our daylight hours, growing them into the late winter and early spring. So could you get your hands on some onion sets right now? Maybe. I don't know. You could look around, but the day length is triggering them to bulb right now. And also with some of like the green onions, the shallots, it's just going to get so hot that it's going to stress them. So the overall theme here is with a lot of these cool season veggies, we are going to be switching up the season, and that can abruptly curtail their chances of success. All right. Yeah, number 5 on the list, very similar to onions, is garlic. The time to plant garlic in our growing region is during the month of October and November. And they need a period of cooling, 30 to 50 degrees to trigger them to bulb. And they're not going to get that right now. So could you give it a shot? Absolutely. If you do, what you might end up with is like one large garlic bulb. And that's something that you could hold on to and plant next fall. And that might work out really good, but it's not likely to divide and grow a nice hefty head of garlic like you might be looking for. Those have already been planted in most gardens right now, and they're growing. I've got mine in, and I expect to harvest them along with those bulbing onions in the month of May. So coming up right around the corner. Okay. Again, do you have questions? Somebody leave me a question. You can do it. Even if you're watching on replay, drop me a question in the chat or in the comments. I'll be at it. I'll see it. I'll do it. Yeah. So going live, it's a new thing, giving you a little bit different flavor, different access. And I'm here for it. I hope you enjoy it. I got some work to do. We're going to get it done. Number 6 on the list. This is going to change it up. Okra. This is one that I'm not planting in March. You know why? Because it's still too cold. Now, it might be getting warm. We'll have some 80-degree days. But I'm not going to plant my okra until it's solid hot. Looking for nighttime temperature steadily into the 50 to 60-degree range. You want it to be nice and warm overnight. And that combined with our rapidly warming daytime temperatures should give you good conditions for getting okra to sprout. You can direct seed that. All right. So I got a question here. Thank you, Diane HC. We've got, what was your temperature today? I think we got up to like 60. Yeah. We just had another really cold run here. And last Thursday morning, it was about 18 degrees. Had a pretty chilly wind chill, about 6 degrees. But right now it's 63 degrees in Austin. So thank you for that question. Also, from Roz coming in, how can you possibly be planting your garden? We are swinging wild right now. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. How am I planting my garden? Question question is, am I planting my garden? No, I'm not really planting it, but I have things that I want to grow for food, and I year after year I always plant some solid sweet pea, some southern peas, some okra. I like some greens like the malokia, and those kind of are set to high heat. So what I'm saying is, it's almost like the spring in Texas to me is the shoulder season, and it's one of those things where you have some specific crops that you need to get in pretty rapidly, like your tomatoes, your eggplants, your peppers. As early as you can in the month of March, we need to get those going because they need to get their fruit set before we get to that period of extremes, which can happen really rapidly. Sometimes into the month of April, we're hitting 90 plus. That can inhibit their growth, but that's why I lean into some of those others that can really take it. Good question. All right, Melissa Trevino, where are you starting your corn? When are you starting your corn? Oh, yesterday. And I didn't plan it yesterday. I wish I had. This cold spell really kind of set me back. I was in denial that it was going to get cold again. But honestly, before this forecast shaped up a couple of weeks ago, I was really thinking about doing some corn and some squash. I know it's kind of crazy early, but anything's possible around here. There's no real average. You just have to go and be ready to go again. So typically, I plant my corn around the middle of March, which I think is a little bit late. I'd like to get it in as soon as possible. The corn that I'm going to grow this year, the Cherokee White Eagle, is about 100 days. So I want to really get that, set up and maturing for the, late May, early June. We should have a good window. Early June in particular is a really abundant time for me. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get planted real quick. All right. Yeah, cold out there in East Texas, 47. That's pretty chilly. Do I think we're going to have another freeze? Man, anything is possible around here. I sure hope not. And I really tried to will it this last time, but it didn't work out. So, but regardless of whether or not we do get a freeze or not, you got to be ready to go. Like I'm talking about with, if you want to grow some heirloom tomatoes, you can't wait. You need to get those in the ground, get them going. You can do the tomatoes in a well method, and that'll help you protect them on some of the colder nights. That's a real specific method. But if you wait, then you're going to be pushing into the time of year where it's not going to be good for them to get going. So yeah, we got to do it. We got to go. Yeah. All right. Another question. Do you think winter sowing method would work in our zone? Yeah, I think so. My experience the past few years has been to really get things in uh, by the month of December. So it can be really tricky in January, as we're seeing, to get things started again. So that winter sowing technique, if you're talking about like with the milk jugs, or even like a cold frame, I think it could be worth a shot. But again, uh, November, December is kind of like when I think we need to curtail those plantings. All right. Uh, yeah. Good questions here, y'all. Thank you for participating. Annette, 1466 in Michigan is freezing until May. Do you know when we should start our seeds for vegetables? That's a great question. I'm not real versed with the Michigan area, but I always advocate for your local Master Gardener Extension Service. They usually have some type of planting guide for your zone, and for your county would be one thing to hone in on. You could also look at your last average frost date, and then count backwards. So if you want to start your tomatoes, 8 or 10 weeks out, you want to look at your last average frost date, and that can give you some type of element of timing if you don't find a specific planting guide. But that's what I would do. I would look for an extension service planting guide. Thanks for coming through from Michigan. Melissa Trevino, I planted my tomatoes and had to cover them. They seem okay, but we'll see as uncovering them tomorrow. Did you plant yours already? Way to go, Melissa, planting those tomatoes. That's what I'm talking about. You got to go for it. Um, Yeah, I think you just have to go. Now, did I plant my tomatoes? No, I'm slow on tomatoes. Tomatoes don't get a whole lot of priority in my garden, not because I don't love tomatoes, but growing tomatoes in my Central Texas garden is an extraordinary effort because this is what I'm talking about. We got to start early in this window, and then we got to get through any late freezes. And then if we get above 90 for a sustained period, or even like 105, that's not going to make for good tomatoes. So it's a tricky vegetable. And I think if you grow some good tomatoes here in Central Texas, you're in the top 1%. So, but you're on the right track there. Yeah. You're welcome, Roz. Thanks for joining. Good times, good times. All right. So one more vegetable I'm not planting in March. Why I got my hand up? I don't know, because I got something to say. Sweet potatoes. Who likes to grow sweet potatoes? I do. I love growing sweet potatoes. Now, I haven't had the best season these last couple. I don't know if it's been too hot and they've been focused on vegetative growth. You think this is a warm season, hot loving crop? They should do well. Um, but right now, I would not be planting those because the soil temperatures, again, is what we're really waiting for to get warmer. Now, it may be indicative if you had some sweet potatoes growing last season, you start to see those sprout in your garden, then that's kind of like telling you something. It's time. I love volunteers like that because they help you get in flow with the season, and then you are better able to kind of time things out. But also at that point, you're a little bit behind nature because nature is like taking care of it. So sweet potatoes, I would be sprouting indoors, starting in mid to late January, even early February. You can certainly do it now. You can plant them out in the garden through June. Early July. They're going to take 90 to 100 days. But that's one that I'm not planting in March. I'm going to wait probably till April at some point. Okay. Another question from Marla. I'm planting tomatoes today. I might be late. I'm in Houston. Well, you plant them when you plant them. And I think, I don't know Houston, but I would imagine your last average frost is earlier than my Austin garden would be. So Uh, give it your best shot. I think you're on track. It's late February. Get you some tomatoes in the ground. All right. All right. Yeah, so I just want to remind everybody, if you want to learn more or you want to support the channel, you can check out the links below this video. I've got a lot of playlists that I've set up for you. Um, and I've got some resources down there that you can click on. Also, some merchandise. Keep it organic, New Garden Road. I made this myself. All right. And I want to share that with y'all. So if you're looking for a specific topic and you don't find it, send me a message. I'll do my best to get that video out for you. And I always appreciate the engagement. So drop me a question on my community tab, on a video. You can even send me an email, scott@newgardenroad.com. Be happy to talk to you. I can come out to your garden, do a consultation too. I do custom garden consultations. Let's go. All right. Annette, you're back. Thank you for your advice. I have a few arrow garden to start my seeds. Last year was much warmer than this year. The extension office tells us to wait and buy plants from a garden center. Well, sometimes that can be tough. And, you know, you have to think about what you're willing to do and also what is typically available at garden centers. So if you have access to high quality starts that take a lot of effort to get going inside, then you can lean into that while also experimenting for yourself. So you have a little something to fall back on. Because although a packet of seeds for a lot of instances can be much more cost effective, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort. You got to have some indoor lighting, making sure they stay, with the right humidity, and then you have to harden them off outside for a period of time. That can take a lot of work. Or you can go, spend a few dollars and get a nice start at the garden center. Now, if you're planting like a farm, then that can be a challenge. So you don't like garden centers. Well, that's cool. I mean, to each their own. If you know, we need to get you some good garden centers up there. We got some great ones down here in Austin. Um, the Natural Gardener has been around for like 30 years, primarily organic gardening, education, sustainable and well adapted plants. So yeah, I know that can be tough. You really are when you do rely on the garden centers, you're limited in the varieties that the growers are going to offer, and also the timing of when they're available. You have to fight the crowds. So there's pros and cons to it, but you just have to think about what you're willing to do and the resources that you have at hand. Yeah, I love growing seeds too. Um, I don't have an indoor setup, so I've been starting all my seeds outside, and I can do that for most of the year. It does get tricky during some points of the year, but I love starting my own seeds because when you see them from the very get go, you get a little bit extra relationship experience with them, and you can nurture them, and you can envision them growing to maturity and landing on your kitchen counter. That's really good stuff. And then saving those seeds, saving seeds is something that I think is really valuable, right? Because we can nurture the plants with the best attributes, select the genetics that are best adapted to our growing region, and save those plants. This is a skill that we all should really get in tune with. One of the things that I'm looking forward to growing in the month of March and April and getting started is southern peas. Now they like a really warm soil too, so I'm probably gonna, wait until our nighttime temps are steadily, in the close to 60. But they will get growing really quick, planted directly in the ground, and those are self-pollinating. They only require 20 feet of separation or isolation in between varieties to reliably save them true to seed. So beans in general are a really good one to start off with. Yeah. Does someone have experience planting artichoke in spring? That's a good question. Artichoke. I know a lot of times we can start the seeds in July for a fall planting, get them established here. and get them over the winter with some protection, and then they'll start to grow rapidly. But if I was looking for artichoke, sometimes you can get the artichoke crowns, which is basically like a root stock that's at least 2 years old, and that gives you a jump start, right? Early January, those are often available. Um, but if you're looking at the nursery and you don't see them, you might find some transplants, and in that case, bigger might be better. Sometimes I'll see like a 1 gallon artichoke, and that's started to grow pretty good, got a decent root system. Because those, I've grew them in the past. I had a artichoke growing for, I think it was at least about 7 years, until it didn't make it through one of the summers. Uh, but April was when they started to do the thing. So you want to get those in really quickly, and a bigger, more developed one would be in good shape. Yeah. All right. All right. So here we are, chopping it up on the Keep It Organic podcast. Um, I really appreciate you joining me. I know it's it's one of those things. Your time, your questions, your energy. I appreciate it. You know, the reason I'm a gardening educator is because I believe wholeheartedly that we should all be taking an opportunity to make an impact in whatever way, shape, or form we can, whether or not it's, a small container garden, a balcony, a community garden plot, or a big backyard, or a small farm. All these things add up to make an impact in our environment. We can create habitat for wildlife. We can help to restore the balance in urban areas that have been, basically scraped and replanted with may or may not be natives or adapted plants. So we're doing a good thing in gardening. It gets us in tune with our environment, with ecology, with our uh, nutritional needs, and we can grow the best food at home. It's right there at our fingertips, fresh from the garden. Nutrient density is at its peak. You know exactly how it's grown, what things have been going into the soil. Um, yeah, and I think it keeps us in that seasonal rhythm too, because there are a lot of foods out there that we might love that we don't necessarily, naturally get 365 days a year. So when you start to open up to some of the regional and seasonal flows of the produce that you can get, it might be things that you've never had before. But if you go to a local farmers market, check out those small farms, see what they have available, and get in tune with that. You'll get those seasonal produce that's going to be at its peak, and that can be really rewarding. Yeah. So I see a comment on here. Try ground cherries. They're tomato cousins, but sweeter and tropical tasting. Summer heat doesn't affect the fruit set. I've done some ground cherries, and I really love those. Those are great snackers. Don't usually make it into the kitchen, kind of like just a garden snack primarily. South Texas in the house. Can tomato transplants go out yet? Do it. You got to be ready. If you get a frost, you're gonna have to protect them. I mentioned earlier in the live the planting tomatoes in a well, and you can find videos on that. But you're gonna plant them deep, and you may or may not have the soil for it. But that's a method where you can get them in the ground, setting roots, and backfill that hole as they grow. And in the meantime, should you get a frost, you cover it with a frost cloth, and that will protect them. But you want to get those roots going so that they'll jump when the season changes. Yeah. All right. Hey, I appreciate you, Annette. If you are watching to the end of my videos and you're laughing, you're a champion, because um, I never expect anyone to watch all the way to the end. It's a blessing when you do, and the fact that you get some laughs out of my fooling around, that's even better, because that's one of the things that I want to do. My mission as a gardening educator, I want to inform, inspire, and elevate you. Right? I want to help you understand what you can grow and when, how, based on my experience, the things that I've learned for so many years through other people, um, inspire you to try some new things. Also, to keep ecology in mind and do our best for our, our animal and, insect pollinator partners, all those things out there, as well as, give you a little bit of a break from reality, give you something to laugh at. And that can be, just the way I say things, the way my face looks, the outtakes in my videos. So I really appreciate that. Yeah. Austin, thank you for showing up, brother. Did we talk about cucumber melons yet? No. As a matter of fact, I haven't even really gotten into what I'm so excited about growing into March and April for this next season. And cucumber melons are one of my recent fascinations. I made a video a few years ago, a little bit tongue in cheek, about the Suyo long cucumber, which is one of my favorite cucumbers. Does pretty well into the heat of the season here. And I got a comment from a nice fella I ended up meeting in my garden, even though this person is from Southern California, Jay, from cucumbershop.com. That is the place to go if you want to find some cucumber melons, the real deal. Have you ever grown an Armenian cucumber? uh, Cucumis Milo. That's a cucumber melon. That's probably one of the more popular ones, but there are numerous other varieties. Many of them are from southern Italy, so apologize, but the ones that I've grown, Caracello, Lassesi, uh, there's one called Chex that has come out of Cucumber Shop that's really good. These are all really, really, really good. They can take the heat better than your standard cucumbers, which are Cucumis sativus, and they don't get bitter, and they're a little extra crispy, but they taste like a cucumber, and are essentially an immature melon. So I encourage you to look those up and give that a shot. Cucumber melons for the win. I can't wait to get back into it. I'm gonna have to try to restrain myself this season and grow. I really want to try to grow one variety and save seeds, um, because they're ones that you would have to isolate by a barrier or by time, or do some hand pollination. So I think growing one variety, I'm going to do better with saving some seeds. All right, got the chat going here, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. Elephant garlic. Yeah, elephant garlic is a winner. I think that's one of the easier ones to grow. It's like more closely related to a leek. So it's got that kind of flavor in between a leek and a garlic, but pretty easy in my experience. As a matter of fact, it volunteers on that end. Like, it'll make these little nodules. I forget exactly what they're called, but they uh they will sprout, and it takes about 2 years for those to, you know divide and turn into a head of elephant garlic. But I've planted them maybe a time or 2 years ago, and I just get them every year because they volunteer like that. So that's a really, really, really good option, and have some medicinal value too. That's what I'm talking about. What's my favorite heat loving veggie? Oh, so hard to whittle it down and choose one. I love beans. I love beans so much. Southern peas. I got a variety that I've been growing for years called a Big Red Ripper. This is an heirloom from Virginia, North Carolina. Makes a long pod, 8 to 10 inches long. Big beans in there, and that one takes the heat like a champ. It might kind of settle down, get quiet during some of the hottest periods, but it'll come back. It'll shoot the gap when we get those dips, and it can do really well. Easy to save seeds from. As I mentioned, I've got, I think I'm in my fifth generation that I've been saving seeds from. So adapting them to my garden, my microclimate, getting a little bit better with that. You can let them dry on the plants, shell them, and save them, and cook them over the winter. That's what I like to do. So I've eaten about all the southern peas that I grew last summer, originally from dried peas, and those are really good. So that's probably my favorite. I'm gonna go with that for now, but I have a lot on the mind, that's for sure. All right, Lynn's Garden. You watched till the end too. Wow, thank you so much. Here's a good one. Have you planted jicama? Oh, yes. I love growing jicama. I find it to be relatively easy. You need a well prepared soil. It needs to be, pretty loose, like well draining, like any root crop would like. But generally, soil temps. I'm not sure, but the month of May, when they're steadily warm, that's when I get them going. They're going to take 5 6 months to produce, and usually about the time you get a first frost, that's when you want to harvest them. The vines aren't that aggressive, so really, you can grow jicama in a small garden. You're only going to get one jicama root at the base of the plant. So plant a few, and that might be all you need because you can get some really big ones. I've seen a lot of variance in the size over the time that I've been growing them, but yeah, Armenian cucumbers for real. I know somebody had a client last summer that was just had to give them away. They were getting so many. Shout out to Arlington, Texas. Wendy, what can I get away with? How early can tomatoes in containers? Just just do it. You have to be ready for what comes. Look at your long range forecast. Stay in tune with your weather. Make sure you're aware of your local extension service planting guide to have a general recommendation for that. So make sure you're in the right range. But if you are, you just have to go. You can't wait. Yeah. Alpha cucumbers. I'm gonna have to look that one up. That sounds pretty good. Corn. You a funny one. Got to grow some corn. I'm gonna grow mine again this year. The Cherokee White Eagle. That was the most beautiful corn. Now this is a flower or a dent corn, so you would let that dry on the corn stalk, and then you can go through that process of nixtamalization, and that'll make it more nutritionally dense, and you can make some masa or some cornmeal with it. I've not tried that yet, but I'm going to. But this is a beautiful corn. So I've grown some sweet corn too. That's a good one. Back to Lynn's garden. Is it time to plant okra in Austin? No, actually, that's one of the ones on my list that I'm not planting in March. Now, could you give it a shot and it gets really warm and stays warm and you'd be just fine? Probably. But it's the nighttime temperatures is kind of what I look to get a bit more steadily warm. As we're dipping into the 40s, um, that soil temperature is going to be a little bit cooler, and they'll grow just as well if you wait. A few weeks. They'll germinate really quickly. You can soak them in water overnight, and if the soil temperatures are warmer, they'll sprout and get growing really really quickly. All right. Got another ooh, hold on. You started growing burgundy okra. Are there that you recommended? Yeah, I love the burgundy. Also, last year I can never contain myself growing some different varieties, so I grew the bowling red. I had some seeds. Those were very similar to the burgundy. Beautiful plants. Also did the big bucks snapping okra, the Puerto Rico everblush. Um, Okra is so fascinating. I just love trying all these different varieties and seeing which one does the best. And some years one does good, and then the other one will do better. Maybe for a later planting or a subsequent season. We got another big red ripper fan here. Combat the bunnies. Well, that's a good one. I like that. Nice. I'm glad we got the Red Ripper train rolling because these heirloom beans are just really something. I grew one last summer called a Papago, and another one that that one is a black and white, and very beautiful, by the way. And then I also did the Florida Conch. Um, that's a small white one, so a little bit longer. You got to plant a lot to get a lot of beans out of that one, but so creamy and delicious. Just so much to explore there and find out what does good in your garden. That Florida Conch too. It's like a more compact variety, so that can be good for a small garden. All right, got another vote here again for the bait alpha cucumbers, not affected by pest, disease, and humidity in Louisiana. Woo! That earns some credit right there, doesn't it? Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, some of the things that I'm looking forward to planting in March. I definitely want to get some peppers and some eggplants rolling. And I'm gonna dip my toes in the tomatoes. Dip my toes in the tomatoes. Why not? I'll probably do a couple plants. I don't go in big for them just because there's not a whole lot of demand for them in my family. But I usually grow some cherries. They do a little bit better into the heat. But you got to get those going. And also, if you like some of the snap beans or green beans, you want to get those going in March pretty rapidly because they're one that when it gets real hot, they just seem to get spider mites real quick. They don't set up too good or mature. But what I like to lean into is the okra, the southern peas, and I'm partial now to some greens. I tried some of the edible leaf amaranth varieties, um, callaloo, which is popular in the Caribbean. That one is so delicious. A really big green leaf. I mean, I think they're around 30% protein, really nutritious, just, very productive. You can pluck off leaves daily and they'll keep coming back. Lots of good flavor in there. I almost felt like there was a touch of collard green in the flavor. They're not related whatsoever, but just to give you an idea what they taste like, because a lot of the warm season greens are a little bit grassier in flavor, or they have a different texture to them than some of our cool season greens. So there is a difference, but there are certainly some really nutritious greens that you can grow into the warm season, like the malokia, or as it's also known, Egyptian spinach. I really love that one. 2 years in a row, I grew it through the summer with no shade cloth whatsoever, just kept on going. It's closely related to okra and hibiscus. It's got a more spinach like flavor with a touch of savory to it. And it's it's less superfood. I mean, power packed with vitamins and minerals, essential amino acids. So you can grow healthy, nutritious greens throughout the summer. You just kind of have to go out on a limb and maybe try some of these. Malabar spinach is one that does really well too. It's got a thicker, more mucilaginous leaf, so it might not be quite as popular, but consider giving it a shot because with the right preparation or picking the leaves at a really early stage, you might find that, this works out. And you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you combine it together to balance the flavors, you throw in some fresh basil, and you might have a nice fresh salad there, or you might get a little quick, simple saute with those with some garlic. I'm getting hungry. Getting hungry, y'all. Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. Who's got another question for me? We're gonna keep going. We covered a lot of territory here. We are 45 minutes in to the first ever Keep It Organic podcast live edition. I'm really happy for you to come join me on this, whether you're watching live, listening to the podcast, or watching on replay. I hope you're getting some value out of it. I'm not here to just kind of toot my horn or run my mouth, even though I do a lot of running my mouth. I want to give you value. I want to give you some inspiration, and I hope you'll check out some of the links below. See what else might be around the corner for you. You never know what video is going to pop up. What YouTube is going to say, "Hey, check this out." It could be from the archives. Find something really old, and those every now and then I go back and watch one of my earlier videos. Entertaining, even for me, as I'm maybe a little bit embarrassed at some of the early ones. Uh, it was a phase, and it's a labor of love that I've been doing here for 6 years. I think there's about 260 YouTube videos on there to check out. All right, Lynn's Garden. Have you ever grown rutabaga in Austin? Yes. It takes so long. You need to plant that in the fall as soon as we get a break in the temps, probably, late October. Um, could be 100 degrees, but you got to get it going. It takes a good 90 days on average, but that's like in a spring like setting. So in the fall, when the days are getting shorter and the sun is getting low on the horizon, you're probably talking more like 120 plus. So it takes a long time to grow and mature. And it depends on the type of winter we have. If we get too cold for an extended period, that can kind of have some stress factors on it too, meaning it might not develop really well. It could bolt and go to seed. So planting it in the fall is your best bet. But I grew a delicious crop of rutabagas at least twice. I didn't plant any this last fall. I kind of skipped it. I go back and forth on that, but I really love them. Fresh from the garden, I mean, it's going to be completely different than something you may have had from the grocery store growing up. And I felt like they had a beautiful flavor to them when they were fresh. Didn't have any, big wax coating on the outside. So yeah, I have grown them, and I wish I could grow. I wish I could grow just about everything. I really do. You know, the winter before last, I went intentionally smaller with my plantings because the the polar outbreaks really are a workout. They take a toll on you, and I manage two other gardens in addition to my own, so I tried to let off the gas a little bit, go a little bit smaller, and that worked out. Of course, I do have a big collection of citrus trees that I need to protect one way or the other, so that keeps me busy regardless. But I went a little bit smaller year before last. This year, I went the opposite direction, and I planted everything. I think I have like maybe 20 beds out there that I covered in these last freezes. So, um, yeah, it's you kind of a balancing act. I always go back to that phrase. What are you willing to do? If you don't want to, get out there uh, and deal with these cold temperatures, maybe go small. Um, and that can still yield you a lot of nourishing food. Uh, yeah, I have seed. Should I wait till fall still or start growing the plants now? In reference to rutabaga, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be planting them now. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about the winter radishes, because if something likes those cooler temperatures and it's going to take at least 90 days in my Central Texas garden, that's pushing into May. No way. No way, because I know it could be 90, 100 degrees pretty quick, and that's just not going to equate to the environment where a rutabaga is going to size up and grow well. One of the biggest things about gardening successfully, in my opinion, is about setting the stage, and that incorporates healthy soil, the right amount of sunshine, the moisture needs of the plant, choosing the right plant at the right time. Okay. And in this case, we're talking about rutabagas, in and around Austin. I would not consider planting them, but save those seeds, hold on to them. And then, for your fall garden, have a plan and plant some as soon as you can in October, and then you can even plant some more if we get a warm spell or an early freeze. You can plant again. So get started early in the fall. Okay, you like that watermelon video, Annette? Thank you. Yeah, it was about when our watermelon is ripe, and there's a lot of talk around that. There's a lot of folklore, urban legend, somewhat. Pardon me. Got to work on the mic stand, y'all. There's a lot of different opinions about how do you know when a watermelon is ripe. But I think the fact of the matter is it takes a few things, and then you also have to get to know them. Um, but the methods that I promote in that video have done well for me consistently. So, I think looking at that tendril is one of the best ways to go. TNT New Life. Do you do consulting in Cedar Park? Heck yeah. Hit me up. Scott@newgardenroad.com. Let's talk. All right. Ban everything. You had to buy a bunch of tarps to save your fig trees. Ooh, I hear you. Yeah. I've got some figs that I'm growing in containers, which makes them easier to protect, of course, and they're going to stay small too. And this is only like I think I'm going into my third season growing figs, so they're still kind of maturing. But oh man, gotta get them through. That's like it's more than a garden snack, isn't it? It's like garden dessert on demand. Got to beat the birds. All right. Thank you, Lynn's Garden. I can't wait to hear about your rutabagas. They're gonna be good. You can make some nice mash with those rutabagas. Little some fresh herbs in there. Mash them up like some potatoes. I don't know how you like to eat them, but I did that once. They were really good. You can do turnips like that too. I did the Scarlet Ono turnips. Had a real nice pink hue to it. That was cool. I like growing food that's kind of beautiful, a little offbeat like that. All right. Melissa, you struggle with getting the sweet melons due to all the rains in March and April. When do you grow them? How can you deal with heavy rains? So the thing would be in preparation. Are you gardening in raised beds? If not, that would be a good option because a raised bed is more likely to have better drainage, and you can also build that over time. Organic matter both helps in the retention of moisture, but also in the microbes. Bond with the plant residues that uh, they put out, and this kind of makes some soil tilth where you get some crumb in there. So a healthy soil, a well draining soil, a raised bed would give you your best shot. Something free draining. um if you got like a hard clay or rock, you need to build up and give it something with good drainage. And I like to grow them in March. I think it's good because if I plant them late and it gets hot, that can interfere with the fruit set. I mean, we know these like hot weather, but if they're encountering temperatures like 105, that's that's not going to be ideal for them. 85 all day long, they're going to love it. Pushing 90, that's when they start to get to that threshold. So when you get them going, early to mid March, and also, be ready to plant again, maybe, put in a couple more 2 weeks later, then you'll be hedging your bets. And I also seem to have found that cantaloupes in particular, um, and muskmelons seem to be more successful and productive for me, even in combating some of those elements of the heat. So get ready, time to get them going. Yellow long neck fig trees. Wow. It's just amazing. These I've never done a YouTube live, and the chat section is just like when I teach a presentation at a local garden center or an event where I get feedback and questions from the audience. You can learn about a new variety or a different growing method or just interesting stories from different places on things that you can, kind of roll back into your own practice that I think can be really valuable. So, diversity in crops uh, is one of my big things. I think exploring lesser known crops, but also the diversity in the gardening community, hearing some different ways to do things because it as well as I do, there are a lot of different ways that you can get gardening and growing. It's about like cooking eggs. How do you like your eggs? You can cook them this way, that way. At the end of the day, you got some cooked eggs. So I think gardening is kind of similar to that. That can be a good analogy for it because you stick to setting the stage, right? Healthy soil, is going to give you healthy plants, and they'll be really nutritious, and promote healthy human beings. So healthy soil, healthy plants makes healthy people. But planting the right thing at the right time, and even exploring crops that you might not have had or might not find at the grocery store, such as the Malokia or these different varieties of okra, some of the southern peas. You might find them at a local farmers market. We got some great farmers markets here in Austin, and you can go, explore and see if they have some of those. But if you try them, you might find that they may not. Part of the problem is when you bring some of these other crops like the Malokia, which is a fresh green, to market, it it might not last real long. It's not going to be marketable. But from your own backyard, goes good in the heat, very resilient, highly nutritious. So those are just the opportunities that we have to explore crop diversity, um, in what we can grow. And I think it goes in hand with the community that we're cultivating here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think we're winding down. I really appreciate y'all. If you've been inspired, please share this podcast. Let me know your takeaways. You can leave me a question for future episodes in the comment section after the live ends. You can always send me an email to scott@newgardenroad.com. I'd be happy to chat with you. Um, yeah. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming in on the replay. No outtakes on this one. You get like full goofy 100% of the time. I hope you were into it. I had a song I was gonna sing, but I forgot it. So I need to get some theme music, right? Because like I like to kick your root down, right? We got need some funky beats, some funky fresh beats. Hmm. I don't know about you, but I like to turn it up, turn it. And also, yeah, can I get a kill? Yeah. All right. That's right. All right, y'all. Thanks again. Just remember, you can grow your own food. And as always, keep it organic.